Well, does it seem like everyone you know is sick right now? Tis the sneezing.
COVID is still the #1 culprit when it comes to hospitalizations.
But take your pick when it comes to all the other respiratory illnesses. Everybody else. Dr. Jeff Pothof is here with his weekly visit. We're seeing an uptick in a lot of things.
In all of them. COVID's been up for a little while. We're still seeing that, hospitalizations from COVID, but now you had influenza came on pretty strong and RSV is right behind it. So any of the three you could have right now, they're all in the community at pretty high levels.
But the pediatric RSV seems to be sending a lot of kids to the hospital.
Yeah, common for RSV, especially for very young kids, to get sent to the hospital. Now, thankfully, most of those kids do pretty well, even if they get admitted. Not too many get really sick, but it is that time of year where even with RSV, we're starting to see some of those hospitalizations.
I know people are probably tired of hearing this. We sound like a broken record, but I feel like we are in the thick of winter. Like the cold really got here now. The snow is blanketing and keeping that all secure. What do we have to do? I mean, I had a sick child and I got it. Now I got my Z-Pack. What can we do? Like I told Mark, there's only so much kale, vitamin C, and vitamin D I can do, right?
Absolutely.
So what do we do?
Yeah, it's a few things, and it's stuff we've talked about before. So one is really good hand washing. Lots of times we got runny noses, we're coughing, we're sneezing. These viruses, these droplets that they're in, they get on our hands. We touch things, and that's just like a trap for the next person to touch it, and now they've got what you've got. Likewise, you know, guarding those sneezes, those coughs, make sure they don't get out there. The big thing, which is the hardest thing to do, because everyone is so busy, like we have to go to work, we have things we want to go to, but if you're sick, don't go out there and like leave your germs for everyone else. That's how we have these respiratory seasons kind of heat up like that. Those things can sometimes be difficult, but if we can do those things, we will decrease transmission. If you're elderly or if you've got comorbid conditions, a mask at this time of year is not a bad idea, just to prevent yourself from getting one of these diseases where you might get more sick than say the average person.
Is it too late to get vaccinated?
Never too late, but right now you're kind of behind the 8 ball because the viruses are out there in such high numbers. You might get vaccinated, you might actually run into RSV, influenza before you actually have that immunity kick on. So if you haven't been vaccinated, get vaccinated, but not as ideal right now.
18% of the population in the U.S. got the new COVID booster.
Yeah.
Just 18%.
And we're worried about this because we haven't had a whole lot of COVID over the last several months. So folks who maybe had COVID last year or last winter, their immunity is waning at this point. So when they get COVID, they can get a little bit more sick than they would have if they had been vaccinated or if they had had COVID recently. So if you haven't been vaccinated against COVID in a while and you haven't had COVID in a while, that booster will really do a nice job of keeping severe disease away.
You know, we're talking about like respiratory stuff, and I'm thinking lungs. Is there a new inhaler coming out?
This
like,
one's
what
actually,
is this?
it's really tricky. So Flovent has been out there for forever. For reasons that would make it financially not great for GlaxoSmithKline to keep it as a brand name, they're going to switch it to a generic. But what that means is that formularies, so your pharmacy benefit, needs to catch up to that change, or when you go to fill your Flovent, it will look as if you got it and it's not a covered benefit. So if you are on Flovent, it will be available as a generic. It's not going away. But if you get, you know, a bill or you're charged, you know, $150 or $200 for that prescription, know that that's probably your formulary not catching up to the change that's been made. It shouldn't cost you that much. So talk to your insurance company, that pharmacy benefit, make sure they've got a plan for this change that's happening right now.
So make sure you go proactive on this.
I think so. Or if you get a bill, don't be like, well, it looks like this medicine just got a whole lot more expensive. It's probably this kind of mistake of the formulary not catching up with the change that the manufacturer made.
So the actual inhaler, the ingredients is not changing.
Identical.
Identical.
It's just going from brand to generic, and the formulary has to catch up with that.
Okay.
All right. Well, Happy New Year to us all.
You bet.
Here's to better breathing.
That's right.